Well, how would you define the difference between religion and spirituality?
I think spirituality is the very human urge to understand the mystery, right? Is to understand the mystery, just the urge to connect and understand. Religion is what happens when we codify that
Mm.
instead of letting it stay a mystery, staying with the questions. Religion gives us the answers. Spirituality stays with the question. Who am I? What's going on here? What happens when I die? And how am I supposed to relate to all of this?
The following information is for educational and entertainment purposes only and is not meant to diagnose, treat, prevent, cure, or prescribe for any medical or psychological conditions. Seek out the opinion of a qualified healthcare professional if you need medical attention. The guests of this show provide their own opinions and may not represent the values or beliefs of Living Waters Wellness Center or Whole Body Detox Show. And welcome everyone to today's Whole Body Detox Show. I'm David DeHaas from Living Waters Wellness Center. Living Waters Wellness Center was formed after we discovered how to heal my body from multiple symptoms, including allergies, asthma, chronic fatigue, back pain, psoriasis, acne, hives, yeast infections, and finally cancer, and I did it all naturally. After 20 years of trying numerous different treatments, medical treatments, cleanses, iridology, muscle therapy, acupuncture, acupressure, homeopathy, naturopathy, those experiences led us to discover that recipe that led to become known as the 4 Natural Laws of Healing. Combining multiple natural healing modalities to fully detox and cleanse the body and allowing the body to take the perfect nutrition to fully restore the body back to its innate health. This became known as a 10-day healing retreat. We've helped thousands of people just like you get their health restored so they can live their life to the fullest. And if you want to learn how you can get your body back to living your best life, go to livingwaterscleanse.com, click on that link, 4 Natural Laws of Healing, and watch the video, or call the office at 208-3789-911. Good morning, everybody. David DeHaas from Living Waters Wellness Center, where miracles begin by healing from within. Got a very special show today, a very unique show, kind of off the path from our traditional talk of detoxing and cleansing. We're talking more about the spiritual aspect of healing today. And I got special guest Lauryn Axelrod. She's an ordained interfaith, interspiritual minister, chaplain, spiritual director, and teacher, a graduate of One Spirit Interfaith Interspiritual Seminary. She's also the founding spiritual director of Three Mountains Interspiritual Community. Lauryn writes a Substack newsletter, Radical Spirituality, Getting to the Root of What Matters, and leads retreats and workshops virtually and in person. Today, she's talking about her new book, 10 Words, an Interspiritual Guide to Becoming Better People in a Better World. Lauryn, welcome to our show.
Thanks so much, David. It's a pleasure to be here.
So I'm really curious to know about the 10 words, but before we get there, I'm sure we need to probably set up a little bit about what brought you to write this book and how did you pick the 10 words? And so what was your inspiration behind this? What got you there?
Well, the 10 words really came out of my own struggle. I was looking at the world today and the people around me and seeing, the levels of pain and the levels of frustration and the conflict and the epidemic of depression and fear and how that's starting to manifest in our physical illnesses. And really looking for a way to help people navigate this. You know, as an interfaith, interspiritual minister, I have a lot of people who come to me with, all kinds of issues going on in their lives and in their health and in their families and in the culture at large, in the world at large right now. There's so much fear and there's so much pain and there's so much suffering. So what I was really looking for was a modern spiritual teaching that unified us, right? That gave us hope, that gave us a way of understanding that, body, mind, and spirit are not separate. And that just as much, you talk about detoxing the body, I was looking at how do we detox our spirit?
Yeah, how
How
do we
do
do
we
that?
cleanse-
That's a great
how do
question.
we, right? How do we cleanse our spirit? And,
Right.
there are many people who, there are a lot of people out there who at this point in time would call themselves spiritual, but not religious. They're not going to church necessarily or synagogue or mosque, but they have an urge. They have an
Mhm.
urge for joy. They have a urge for meaning. They have an urge for purpose and an urge to transcend, to connect more deeply with themselves, with others, with the world around them. So I was really looking for, what can I find that takes all of the wisdom of our great spiritual traditions throughout history, and instead of separating them, right? This is Christianity, this is Judaism, this is Buddhism, this is Taoism, whatever, finds the common root, the common core. What is true across the board? What do these spiritual traditions tell us about how to be better people in a better world, how to be healthier, happier, more connected, more joyful, more purposeful? And interestingly, they all say the same things. Underneath all the doctrine, underneath all the words, they're actually saying the same things. And that's where the 10 words come from. They're distilled from the common principles that are true across the board, and not just in religions, right? But in science and in psychology. All of these are true principles of how we can be better people, happier, healthier, kinder, more peaceful in a world that supports the thriving of all.
I don't know if you ever get this question, but me, when I was, as I've been going through life, could you have a good definition, the difference between, because I get asked a lot of times, and I don't know why. I guess our name is Living Water, so that sometimes people come in and ask me, well, what religion are you? Mm-hmm. Well, how would you define the difference between religion and spirituality? Is there a difference, or is one part of the other? What's your definition of that?
I think spirituality is the very human urge to understand the mystery, right? Is to understand the mystery, just the urge to connect and understand. Religion is what happens when we codify that, instead of letting it stay a mystery, staying with the questions. Religion gives us the answers. Spirituality stays with the question. Who am I? What's going on here? What happens when I die? And how am I supposed to relate to all of this? And religion gives us those answers. And for a lot of us, those answers are like, I don't know about that, right? For some, they're like, okay, that's great, fine, I've got it. But that's the way I see the difference. I mean, there are specific terms, like religion has, doctrine, and it has a community built around it. It has spiritual leadership, things like that. Spirituality itself doesn't have those things. It's very individual.
Yeah. Does one need religion to lead a great spiritual life, do you think?
I don't think so, but I'm not speaking for everybody, right? Everybody, I have a lot of people who are like, their church, their synagogue, that is really important to them. And I'm not going to say no to that. If that works for you, if that connects you to yourself, to other people, to the world, to whatever you call the sacred, fantastic. But for those of us for whom it's like, that's kind of a narrow box, I'm not really comfortable in that box.
Yeah.
And so the beautiful thing about these 10 words is that they don't have a doctrine. There's no dogma. There's nothing you have to believe. They're words that you can explore. They're the common principles. And once you start exploring them and you stay with the questions, then you start to discover what's true for you, not just because somebody else says it.
Do you think, and we'll get into the words in a bit here, but it's, I know my dad just passed, and, I was talking to him. I says, your memberships, how many funerals do you have a year? And he says, oh, about 3 maybe. And I says, that's it? I said, you got an older population. He says, yeah, we're probably gonna have a pretty good run here, but there's not very many young people, and the statistics nationwide, people going to churches is way down.
Yeah.
Is that, and I don't think we're more spiritual. I would guess we're probably a little bit less, or more less. I mean, we're, a lot less in some cases. Are we just missing out on the benefits of being a part of that larger community? And I've always thought, the community is what kind of holds people together and gives them support. But it seems like the younger generation is vamoosing from that. Is that, I think, yeah. Is that what
yeah. It's true. I mean, we are having sort of a mass exodus from the organized religions.
Right.
And when we do that, I agree with you. It's the community that is
Hmm.
so important. I mean, Alex de Tocqueville, who was a French historian, French diplomat, actually, wrote a book way back in the 1800s called Democracy in America. What he discovered is that it was the churches, it was the communities around the churches that really held the fabric of American society together. And we're
Yeah.
seeing that, that with and the buzzword, in the younger generations, it's all about community. We crave it,
Yeah.
crave community, but we don't necessarily want to have to subscribe to doctrine, theology, dogma, rules that don't make as much sense for us.
Uh-huh.
I mean, we call, it's the spiritual but not religious, or we call them the nuns, not N-U-N-S, but N-O-N-E-S,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and it echoes my own journey. I grew up surrounded by religion, went to a religious school, spent my Sundays in a evangelical African American church in Texas. My family was Jewish, so I had Jewish holidays as well, and I was surrounded by religion. And and then in my teens, I got interested in the Eastern religions, spent a lot of time in Zen Buddhism, a lot of time in Advaita Vedanta, the non-dual tradition, spent a lot of time in Taoism, really a tremendously long time, and found that, I was not I had all these practices, I did my meditation, I did my Tai Chi, I, sang in a gospel choir, I played in a drum circle, I did all that stuff, but I somehow was missing something. And what I discovered that I was missing was a container to put it in. But I
Hmm.
didn't want any one of all of those containers. I didn't want like that one or that one. I didn't want to be limited. I wanted a container that had like flexible, transparent walls.
You wanted an eclectic container, is what you're saying.
Right, right. But I still needed a container. I
Right.
needed a path. I needed a map because otherwise what I was doing was just throwing all this stuff in and making like a spiritual smoothie out of it.
Mm.
So, when I came to the 10 words, I went, oh, there's the container.
The words are the containers, what you're saying.
The words are the container. They're the map, right? They're the actual map. They don't tell you what the destination is. You can use a map, you go hiking or you're driving or whatever, you're looking at a map. It doesn't tell you exactly what the destination is. You can use it to get to the top of the mountain or go to the river swimming hole, right? But
Right.
there's still a map. It keeps you from wandering around in the wilderness, not knowing, like, wait a minute, what does all this mean anyway? What they say this is enlightenment, they say that's enlightenment. I don't know.
And they'll use the term, ooh, that's new age. You better stay away from that.
Right, right.
My response over the years is I've never understood what new age, the meaning is. I think it's different for everybody. And one day it hit me. I says, wasn't Jesus new age at one time? I think he
Yeah,
was.
yeah. I mean, what we understand historically about what was happening around the Dead Sea at that time, it's sort of like Haight-Ashbury in
Yeah.
the 60s.
Well, that's an interesting picture. Yeah, I guess you're right though, huh?
It
Yeah.
was, there were a lot of different sects, right? And
Yes.
Jesus was the leader of one of those sects.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Fascinating.
yeah.
So, can you share some of the core principles you've identified and how they can be applied in our everyday life?
So now we have to talk about the 10 words.
Okay.
And the 10 words all begin with A, B, and C. They're
Okay.
really basic. That's how foundational they are. The first word is attention. Every tradition, every talks about the importance of attention. Where are you putting your attention?
What you see is what you get, is what you're saying.
If you're walking through life not paying attention to what's happening, life is your spiritual path, whether you know it or not. You're already on a spiritual path. It's called
Right.
life. But if you're not paying attention, then you're going to miss life and you're going to miss your connection to whatever you call sacred. You're going to miss your connections, your deep connections with other people, with the world around you. Where you put your attention matters. And every spiritual practice is on some level about training you to pay attention.
Okay.
So it's the first one. You're not going anywhere if you don't have a map and your eyes aren't open and you don't have boots on. You're just not going, right? So attention. The next one is acceptance.
Okay.
So this is more along the lines of what you just said, is what it is, right? Things are what they are. Life is what it is. And as the Buddha said, if you really want to suffer, try wanting life to be different than it is. That's what's going to make you suffer. Stuff's going to happen. But if you can't be with it and accept it, then you're going to suffer. And I think that a lot of, talking about some of our health issues, a lot of it comes from not accepting things as they are. Stress, anxiety, depression, a lot of these come out of not accepting. Even, there's a practice in psychology called radical acceptance, which is you may not be able to change it, but you have to accept it. You have to accept that it is what it is.
Mm.
People are who they are. You are who you are. The world is as it is, just is, right?
Well, and if we don't have that, I guess, it's easy to get angry at everything, especially with what's going on in the world today.
Right.
But there is definitely a flow. And I think what I hear you saying, or my interpretation or my view, is that everyone always talks about fighting things, fighting cancer,
right.
fighting the other political party, fight, right? But years ago, my brilliant wife, who leads our 10-day healing retreat, I was refereeing soccer. And as it goes, you get coaches and fans that want to just yell at you. And with me, I want to just lash back out at them. She says, David, be more like a blade of grass and let it blow over you.
Mm-hmm.
That was not easy to do at first. It got better as time wore on, as I got more used to it and did some other practices, some other meditation work and so forth, and was able to. But yeah, we do have a lot of things coming at us today, and we can get very. Well, I think, quite frankly, that's probably why I think my dad would have lived longer, but he was looking at what was happening to the world and he got so upset. I kept telling him, turn off that television, quit watching the news.
Right. And that's going to take us to another one of the words, but absolutely, accepting doesn't mean you have to like it.
Right.
It doesn't mean you have to support it, but it is what it is. And if we can't accept things for what they are, then we can't change them.
Yeah.
If we can't see things clearly for what they are, we can't change them.
Yeah.
Including ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Then the third word is authenticity.
Okay.
Authenticity meaning integrity, honesty, truth, right? And that's not just telling the truth. That's about knowing who you are, knowing your deepest self, not wearing a mask, not pretending to be somebody else, not feeling like you have to hide parts of yourself in order to be accepted, but allowing your nature, who you are, to come through.
I think that's the struggle, right? Is that figuring out who we want to do, right? And who are we, right?
Right.
I think that's the big struggle.
It's the first of the three spiritual questions. Who am I?
Yeah.
There's a great story about a young man who travels a long distance to go visit a spiritual teacher. And he arrives there and he says, I've come because I want to know God. And the spiritual teacher says, you're wasting your time. And the young man gets all upset. He says, well, why? I don't understand. He says, because God's everywhere. And he says, well, why am I here then? What am I supposed to be doing? And he says, know yourself. Right? And every tradition has taught this. Christianity teaches it. Judaism teaches it. All the Eastern religions teach it. It's all there. Know yourself. And you'll find God in the process.
But don't we get caught up in a lot of the rules and dogma of what you should and shouldn't do? And, some have rules. You shouldn't go to a dance. You shouldn't watch movies. Other people there's all these rules that a lot of religions place. And I think that, and to some degree, we need rules to live by, no doubt. But sometimes I think we get lost in trying to figure out who we are. For example, what I've noticed I coached kids.
Mm-hmm.
And I always loved the kids that were, I called them the schemers. And
Trying to
maybe they didn't get the, straight A's and they didn't follow the rules. I love the rule breakers and the schemers.
Yeah.
And when I was in my real estate career years ago, I was in commercial real estate. And, the cool thing about that job was I got to meet all these different entrepreneurs and how they got to where they were. And there were so many who had actually flunked out of school because they were the radicals. They were the misfits. And I think they couldn't be penned up, and they went out and figured out who they were faster than other people. Other people followed too many rules and then got stuck. And what I've seen, and you tell me if you see the same thing, what I've seen is people then come in really sick and really not free of being who they are, I think is what happens.
Yeah. I really believe that, all of these words that we're talking about also have ramifications in our bodies, in our health. If you are not being true to yourself, and we see it all the time, right? All the time, it is going to affect you physically.
I need to go back in time and tell my 6th grade teacher that she accused, that was during the Vietnam War. She accused a friend of mine, Butch King, and I, we're always out in the hallway. We're always getting in trouble. And she said, we're going to be flag burners and be those bad people. And I need to go back and say, I was just trying to be who I am.
Right. And that's really all we want. We want to be able to be accepted for who we are.
Yeah.
We need to, to be allowed to be who we are and be accepted, which is one of the things when we talk about, God loves you. God loves you for who you are. That's what we're talking about. God didn't say, okay, I want you to be just like him. I made you.
Right.
For a reason. I want you to do you. My teacher used to say, you do you, baby, and let the Tao do the rest. Like, you do you. But you have to know who that is. Right. You got to spend some time, right?
Right.
So we're only on word 3. Do you see how complicated, there's small words, but they have such depth. They have such depth, and you can explore them deeper and deeper. And my experience and the experience of people who've been doing this practice for a while is that every day these words are going to show up. Some days one word's more emphasized, but if you are paying attention, going back to that word, you will see these principles show up every single day.
It's interesting because I've had a lot of people through the years have came through, and I remember this one gal, she's in her 70s, and she says, David, the best part of this cleanse for me was I've been going to church my whole entire life, every Sunday, and now I get my connection between me and God, and I go, groovy. How'd that come about? But I've had it happen many times. I think it's just when they come here, they get a chance to get authentic, release all that junk out of the colon, small intestine, clean up the bodies, or clean up that body. That the parasites are beings; those are a problem. But when they clear that out, I think that they're much more free. Plus, they've given themselves 10 days of time.
Yes,
I think that's a huge part of it. What's been your experience? Is time?
Absolutely. I feel like, once and this is one of the words, contemplation. It's the 6th word. Once we've skipped ahead a little bit,
that's
but
right.
Once we give ourselves the time, the quiet, just slow down so we can hear ourselves. We can hear that still small voice within. We can hear our own truth, or however, some call it the voice of God. It doesn't matter what you call it. You can hear it.
Yeah.
You can experience it. And when you do, and again, there's all the Eastern mind-body practices are all about opening those channels from, opening the chakra, opening the crown chakra, all the way down to the root chakra, or opening the meridians so that we can flow.
I want to back up here for a moment. For our listeners, what you're talking about, chakras, what others refer to as energy centers. And we have 8 energy centers beginning at your perineum, and then your gut, below your heart center, your throat, your pineal gland, on your head, and then above your head. Those are energy centers. Those are centric. So when you use chakras or centers, it's the same word. And those are energy centers. And we got to pay attention to those because those can get blocked. Acupuncturists use needles. We use pulse frequency and hands-on energy healing. And it's really important to understand that that little piece there. So I just want to explain that. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and so it's not surprising to me that when people come and do a 10-day cleanse, detox, that they're opening all those channels.
Yeah.
And once you open everything and you get quiet enough, you have a little time to yourself, you're not running around like a crazy person all the time, you will hear that. You will find your spirituality.
Well, chemically, we treat a lot of things chemically. So if we don't have enough energy, we drink a energy drink or some coffee. And so for those listening today, you have these energy centers, and think of it as basically power stations. Think of all this one big electrical grid in your body, and you have a separate power station at your perineum, in your gut, and so forth. And so blockages can happen. The energetic blockages can happen, chemical blockages, and we treat it with chemicals. And I've never found anybody that was really come to earth with a chemical deficiency. So if we can get the body back to wholeness,
right,
we can get those power grids realigned. And that's what I think you're sharing here is another way to get that done. We've been talking with Lauryn Axelrod, who wrote a book called 10 Words, an Interspiritual Guide to Becoming Better People in a Better World. Offers a transformative path to personal and collective growth. So on our 10-day healing retreat, we talk a lot about the physical, also the mental and emotional, spiritual as well. And so this is another look at those practices. So you can get her book wherever books are sold, as well as laurynaxelrod.com. I'll have the links in the show notes over on the podcast, which can be found on the website, livingwaterscleanse.com. This is episode 196. As many of you know who listen to the show regularly, we do a healing retreat once a month, and we just had some of our 10-dayers come back into the office after experiencing a retreat. Lots of cool stories, lots of cool wins. For example, one guy got rid of his floaters. He got off his testosterone shots. Now he has all the energy he needs. His golf game has gotten better. He sleeps better. He went from sleeping 4 to 5 hours to now sleeping 9 hours. Lots of energy. His PSA numbers dipped by half, which is pretty cool. The other guy got rid of his proton pump. He got off metformin. Looks great. So he's healing his diabetes on his own. And the other lady got rid of her migraines, pain in her ear, and her hip pain that she'd had for a long, long time. So those are all things that people have experienced the benefits of. Can't promise you the same thing, of course. A little disclaimer there. Results may differ. But anyway, if you want to learn more about our healing retreats, go to livingwaterscleanse.com or call the office at 208-3789-911. We'll be back in a moment. Stay tuned.
Once in a lifetime, a healing tool comes across your path that can really change the ability for the body to heal naturally and quickly. We have found such a tool, and it has changed the way my family lives and how our clients at Living Waters are helping to heal their body. It's called phototherapy, and phototherapy is the ability of your body using waves of light to turn on your body's ability to make its own stem cells. No surgeries, just simply a little Band-Aid size patch that can activate your body to make stem cells. As you age, you're producing less and less stem cells. And by age 60, you're making none. So when it comes to healing and repairing, it is a long, long process. We can now speed that process up by using phototherapy. Go over to stemcellpatch.net and watch the videos there. And go ahead and try these patches for a few months. These patches have helped so many of our clients reverse pain, help speed up the healing, sleep better, and on and on. You'll see some of the testimonials over there. It's an amazing little tool that you should be using right now. For less than the cost of a cup of coffee per day, you can now be increasing your body's ability to make the stem cells on its own. Stemcellpatch.net or call the office at 208-3789-911. You can't treat the body and heal it a piece at a time. You have to treat the whole body naturally. That's why Living Waters Wellness Center 10-day healing retreat is so successful in helping what I call the incurables back to wellness. Here's what a few clients had to say about their experience at Living Waters Wellness Center.
For over a year, I've been dealing with gas pains, stomach pains that have been waking me up in the middle of the night, so I never get a full night's rest. And last night, after my first colonics, I slept through the entire night without any stomach pain or any kind of issues.
I suffered from migraine headaches for 12 years, once a month. And since I did the 10-day retreat at Living Waters Wellness Center 8 years ago. I have not even had a migraine. I've not even had a headache. I had back pain on my left side for about 20, 25 years. After the 10-day healing retreat, the pain is completely gone.
To learn more about the 10-day healing retreat, go to healingtheincurables.com or call the office at 208-378-9911. That's 208-378-9911. The preceding examples may not be typical of your experience and may not be right for you. Seek the opinion of a qualified healthcare professional before determining if cleansing is right for you. Welcome back to the show. David DeHaas from Living Waters Wellness Center, where miracles begin by healing from within. And we continue our conversation with Lauryn Axelrod, who wrote the book 10 Words, an inspirational guide to becoming better people in a better world. And who doesn't want to try and better themselves, especially in the spiritual realm as well? And guys, if you're looking to get your body back to wellness and get it back to wholeness, look at our 10-day healing retreat or come down and do some colon hydrotherapy. If you have never learned about that, well, you can go seek out our website, livingwaterscleanse.com, or call the office at 208-378-9911. What we know to be true over the years is that you've got to begin with healing the gut to have any effectual healing take place. Now, back to our show with Lauryn.
Yeah, and this practice is a practice of wholeness.
Yeah.
Because the first 5 words are really about cultivating our inner way of being, and the second 5 words are really about how that can show up in the
Cool.
world. Because spirituality is not just what happens when you're sitting on your meditation cushion, right? Your spirituality is really about your relationship to yourself, others, the world around you, and whatever you call the sacred, right?
Okay.
Spirituality is about relationship. And we tend to think of our spirituality as being a very personal thing.
Right.
But sitting on your cushion doing your meditation, why are you doing it if it's not to be a better person in the world? Because everybody's enlightened sitting on their meditation cushion. There's a saying that's like, if you think you're enlightened, go spend the weekend with your family. Right? Everybody's like, oh yeah, I've got it, I'm all good, and then they get out into the world and their spirituality comes up against reality and other people. That's the test. That's where the rubber hits the road. So this practice is a holistic practice in a number of ways. It's inner and outer, but it's also the 10 words. They're not really individual words. At first glance, they are, but once you start working with them, you see how they all kind of flow into each other.
Cool.
And by the time you get to the last word, the 10th word is care.
Okay.
To care means to attend to something.
Okay.
And we're back at attention, only we're at a higher octave, right? We're up on another level as we're spiraling. We just keep going around in a circle, going either higher or deeper, however you perceive that. Does that make sense?
Yes. So what about, let's see, we stopped at 3rd, skip to the 6th word. What's the 4th and 5th words?
So the 4th word is benevolence.
Okay.
Right? Kindness. Generosity, really, really taking into consideration, wishing well. And every tradition, benevolence is central. Every single tradition. It's got different words, charity, humility, blah, 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 blah. There's lots of different words that are encompassed in benevolence, but generally benevolence is kindness.
Do we is it best to take these words? Is this something we take off the shelf each day and kind of work on one word each day? Or is this something you should take them as a group? I mean, how do you obviously get your book?
Right.
Is your book on your website at Lauryn?
Yes, it is. It's on my website. It's on Amazon. It's on Barnes & Noble and Kobo and your independent bookstores everywhere. Yeah.
10 Words with Lauryn Axelrod. And I will put this in the show notes on the podcast. So wherever you're at, if you're listening to the radio show today, definitely go over to the podcast, Whole Body Detox Show, wherever you get podcasts, or wholebodydetoxshow.com. It's also on livingwaterscleanse.com. We'll have all the links in the show notes. So, go right to the books and right to her website and all that good stuff. So,
Yeah.
anyway,
So we were at benevolence.
Yes, benevolence. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so benevolence. And then here's one that I think probably really applies for where you're going is balance.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Balance is one of the principles. And this is true. It's not just balance within our own bodies, it's balance in the cosmos. This is not, we know what we know from science, from psychology, from our mystical wisdom traditions. They were all saying the same things. Balance is an important principle. So when you were talking before about like watching the news and too much news and how it really works us up. It causes stress in our bodies, our cortisol levels rise, all of that. Well, maybe we need to watch a little less, bring ourselves back into balance.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
that's a big one. I think the news today, it's too much of that that's why I took the TV out in 2000. I sold satellite television discs back in the early 80s. I was the pioneer in that industry, and I brought lots and lots of channels to people. And then years later, it's like my wife came home one day and she's looking and she thought, oh my God, I should get this drug. And then she says to herself, what am I thinking? I don't need this. So the programming goes on, and that can get overwhelming, especially with all the BS that they're probably getting out there today.
Yeah. Yeah. So balance is another principle. It's another word to work through. And so, you asked how's the best way to work with these. So you can pick a word a day. You can take a word for the week. You can take a word for a month. That's how we've done it, in more in-depth studies. I do 10-day programs, and I do, take a month, really dive in, and what we've discovered is that, there are lots of ways to look at these words. So what the book does is it gives you a little bit of background information on why these words are important. From our faith and wisdom traditions, what the various traditions say, what psychology says, what science says, and then some suggestions for how we could bring these words into our lives, explore where they show up, some reflection questions that you can journal or ask yourself or work in a group and open up to the group, let everybody share, and then some suggested practices.
What success stories can you share with us that people who have embraced these words in your work, read your book? What have you found?
Oh, it's so individual because everybody's on their own spiritual path, right? This isn't one doctrine, but it's everything from, one person who was really deep, deep, deep in grief, having lost a brother and another brother and really having a hard time kind of pulling himself back into life. Working with these words brought him back in. I've seen people find their creative voice. They'd been stuck. They'd been really feeling good. Because creativity is one of the words.
Yeah. Okay.
I've seen people find their life purpose.
That's awesome. That's huge.
They go, oh, this is what I want to do. This is what gives my life meaning, how I can care for and serve others. That it's,
right.
And for myself, after all of my decades of study and seminary and ordination, it was these 10 words. These 10 words are my practice, and they anchor me every day,
So someone gets your book, they open up the book, they read through the book. I assume in the book you are giving them instructions, or is it everyone a little different on how they start using these words and applying the words?
So my suggestion is first time around, go in order, right? Okay. Start with attention and go in order because you will see how they flow. into each other. They become a complete practice. Then you can go, you can say, oh, well, you know what? I want to go back and work on collaboration again, or right now in my life, collaboration is really a thing. I have to really focus on it.
Right.
But my experience has been, you can literally just put the word on a sticky note on your computer and leave it there, or on your mirror and leave it there for a week or a month.
Mm-hmm.
And watch what happens.
So you're aware, and just that awareness is what's, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What do other modern day psychology and the science, what do they say about these words you came up with, and what's the picture, the big picture there?
Well, psychology, human psychology hasn't changed since antiquity. We're still the same people we were when our great faith and wisdom traditions first came into being. We really haven't changed. We still wrestle with the same feelings of unworthiness, fear, loneliness, anxiety. We still suffer disease, illness. We still have questions about purpose and meaning and how to live in peace and happiness. And not surprisingly, many of the solutions to those questions are in our texts. They're in the ancient texts. They're in the ancient mystical practices. And now science is just discovering them, or psychology is discovering that, oh, radical acceptance. We've been talking about it. We've been talking about it for a couple of thousand years now, or everything is connected, right? Collaboration, the principle of everything is interdependent. Everything is collaborating with everything else. That's what physicists and biologists are telling us now. So it's not different. These principles apply, and you don't even have to be, religious or spiritual to use them. You can use them just as a humanist. If your religion is science, you will see these show up in science. They're principles. They're fundamental underlying principles. It's how the universe works. The universe works on collaboration. The universe works on creativity. The universe works on care. This is just how it works.
How did you find these? I mean, how did you, obviously the words are in the English language, of course, but right. How did you pick these words? How did that come about? And how did you finally settle on these 10 words? Why not? Was there 11 words at one time? Was there 12 words? Was there only 6 words? How did you hit upon 10 words?
It's kind of an interesting process. I had been doing a lot of studying, trying to find what I considered to be the fundamental principles. And one afternoon, I just sat down and I started writing words. And it's like, start with A, and I started writing the words. And by the time I got, through the 10 words, I went, oh, there they are. Like there's nothing there's the D section of the book, right? Because they got the ABC, but then there's the D section of the book, because there are a few words that I think are important for how, keeping this from being just a little fad practice for yourself, a little, oh, I'll just do this for a day, or a week, or, really embodying these into your life. And those words are discipline, dedication, devotion, right?
Mm-hmm.
But those are not necessarily principles. They're just words that are part of all spirituality and a spiritual path and health, right? If you want to be healthy, it's gonna take a little bit of discipline and dedication and devotion. You have to be in love with yourself enough to, devoted enough to yourself to want to be healthy.
I've always felt over the years, this is my perspective, I thought there's been way too much emphasis in the religions to not love ourselves enough and have the what's the word I'm looking for here? Yeah, I mean, it's don't be selfish. I think, quite frankly, you need to love yourself first. You need to be a little selfish in order to have a whole life. And I find so many people have been browbeaten into they're not good enough, right?
Yep.
You're a
Yeah.
sinner. Well, yeah, we're all sinners, but you keep telling me that every day, I'm probably just going to go out and be a sinner. Um,
Mhm.
and I've seen that in sports too. I've seen it play out. That was my greatest teacher, was teaching other kids, and the lessons I learned through sports. Michael Jordan was pretty selfish with that ball. And it served him well. And so I just felt sometimes there's been an overemphasis that browbeat us down to being not realizing how great we are. And then so we don't realize our greatness. We don't dig within and pull that out.
And we're, that's the thing
Well,
that,
if God's within us, my God, how much more do you need?
right, right.
Oh!
If every single one of us is in fact not just a reflection of the divine, but part and parcel of it,
Yeah.
where in that is unworthy? Where in that is not good enough? There's a Zen teacher who used to say, you are perfect, just as you are. There's always some room for improvement, right?
Yeah.
You are perfect just as you are, as God made you, as, like you are perfect. There's only one of you. Be you. Be the best you can be. Be fully, completely you. And if you think about it, if you can imagine God, the creator, sitting there going, wow, I made this thing and it's just not really living up to my expectations at the moment because it's not being itself.
I'm not sure if it was Louise Hay, but it may have been her, because I remember she said, or was another spiritual person that said, listen, you may not like Donald Trump, she said, listen to his words. He believes in who he is to his core. And that's why, he's an amazing, great leader. I mean, you can maybe not like his policies, you maybe not like how he tweets or texts or so forth, but he has certainly believed in who he is. If more people believed in who they are, and I've seen this in school, I've seen this in sports, definitely, which I've been very heavily involved with. And here on our 10-day cleanses, is sometimes people come in here, they've been, sexually molested, they've been, browbeaten, they've been harmed in so many different ways. And, when I see them open up and forgive themselves and forgive others, and then they start taking up on those words. So I'm all in with what some of these things you're saying, because there's just so much negativity out there. I mean, that's what news thrives on, blood and gore. That's the first, that's what you're going to see on the news.
Right. Fear sells, right?
Yeah. So no, I've just, you look at all the greats. I've always watched the words, a lot of the great athletes, their statements, whether it was the golfers, they'd say, well, my mind game was off today. It wasn't their physical game was off. It's just their mind game was off. Right. And for years, I cut these little clips out of the papers, and all the greats, whether it be a Larry Bird or the top baseball players, top football players, those guys just see life as a game. And of course they are playing a game, but even the top business people in the world, you get around a guy who really is true to himself, or a gal true to themselves. They're in the greatest game of their life, and they love it.
And we're back to authenticity, right?
Yeah, they get that authenticity.
Being yourself.
Yeah.
And knowing yourself and not being ashamed to be yourself.
Right.
It's the hardest thing. It's really hard because we're so conditioned and we're so educated, conditioned, whether it's our families, our communities, our schools, our media culture, or whatever. We're so conditioned that we have to be a certain way.
Right.
And certainly I see it a lot with women, in the sense of, and I think a lot of the diseases that women experience, more so than men, oftentimes come from having really repressed who they are.
Oh yeah. Very
And
much so.
and that fear of being, quote, selfish, right?
Right.
Like that belief that if we're not giving all of ourselves to everyone all the time, that we are somehow not worthy, we're not good enough, it's not good enough, it's not enough. And to take even a moment, let alone a 10-day detox, right?
Right.
But just a moment for ourselves
Right.
feels selfish. We've got the kids, we've got the partners, we've got the work, we've got everything. And we just, just to take that moment. And that's contemplation. That's one of those words. Come back to yourself.
Right.
Get quiet, let it, just drop it. Just drop it for 5 minutes.
Right.
5 minutes.
Yeah. Our society's so fast paced. No, I can just tell you, you just brought up a rush of memories over the years. I remember a gal really sick. And then she says, no, I can't do this right now. I can't do the cleanse. I've got the kids need shoes and my husband needs me to do this. And I says, you can do those things better if you're well.
Right. Right.
But yeah, all the time it always comes, oh, I've got to work. I had this one gal, her friend was going to pay for it, did pay for it, but she put up all the roadblocks. She had severe rheumatoid arthritis. And she had a $10 an hour job delivering pizza. She said, well, I can't miss. I got these days here. I got to be to work. I says, there's lots of people who can drive and take your space and deliver the pizza.
Yeah. Yeah.
When will you take time for yourself? When will you take time for yourself?
Yeah. It's also a thing of not feeling like you're worthy of that time.
Bingo. Yeah.
So it's, I really do feel like these words, if you work with these words, these are as much of a detox from conditioned beliefs, from toxic spirituality. There's a lot of that, the toxic religion. I know a lot of people who've been very traumatized by their religious experience.
Yeah.
These are ways of bringing in things that can nourish us. These are verbs, right? Acceptance is a nourishing thing. Creativity is a nourishing thing. We bring these things in on a spiritual level to nourish us. And the other stuff will just fall away. The same way with when you start eating a healthy diet, right? You start eating your vegetables and your, healthy fats. Suddenly you don't crave sugar anymore. Right? You don't, and you have energy and you feel better, and then you want to just keep doing it.
Right.
So this is as much of a detox for who we can be on all levels, all levels, and the world that we want to live in. How do we create a better world? Well, it's going to have to start with us.
Yeah.
It has to start with us. We have to be Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., be the change that you want to see in the world. You gotta do the work yourself. You gotta bring these principles in, and you'll see the world will become a much better place. And at the very minimum, you will be more peaceful and more happy, happier, healthier, more peaceful. Whether or not the world is, you will be.
Right. Yes. Anything else you want to add?
They're simple words.
Yeah.
But they'll take you a lifetime.
Get the book. The website is Lauryn, Lauryn
Nope.
No dot. Lauryn, her full name, Axelrod, AXELROD.com. And you can find her on the Instagrams and Facebook, which we'll put in the show notes on the podcast, which you can find our podcast link at livingwaterscleanse.com. This has been a great, very entertaining show today. This has been good.
Thank you so much, David. Yeah, what a great conversation.
Learned some new things myself.
Me too. Thank you so much.
10 words. Get the book, An Interspiritual Guide to Becoming Better People in a Better World. And we need more of that. Lauryn, thank you for coming on the show today. I sure appreciate you.
You're so welcome. Thank you, David.
If you want to get Lauryn's book, you can go to laurynaxelrod.com or wherever books are found. That book is 10 words, An Interspiritual Guide to Becoming Better People in a Better World. I'll have all the links in the show notes over at the podcast, Whole Body Detox Show. And if you're looking to get well, think about cleansing. The path to wellness is always through the colon. We got to heal the colon first for any effectual healing to take place. If you've heard me speak many, many times in this show. Till next week, have a blessed week, my friends.
Once in a lifetime, a healing tool comes across your path that can really change the ability for the body to heal naturally and quickly. We have found such a tool, and it has changed the way my family lives and how our clients at Living Waters are helping to heal their body. It's called phototherapy, and phototherapy is the ability of your body using waves of light to turn on your body's ability to make its own stem cells. No surgeries, just simply a little Band-Aid sized patch that can activate your body to make stem cells. As you age, you're producing less and less stem cells, and by age 60, you're making none. So when it comes to healing and repairing, it is a long, long process. We can now speed that process up by using phototherapy. Go over to stemcellpatch.net and watch the videos there. And go ahead and try these patches for a few months. These patches have helped so many of our clients reverse pain, help speed up the healing, sleep better, and on and on. You'll see some of the testimonials over there. It's an amazing little tool that you should be using right now. For less than the cost of a cup of coffee per day, you can now be increasing your body's ability to make stem cells on its own. Stemcellpatch.net or call the office at 208-3789-911. You can't treat the body and heal it a piece at a time. You have to treat the whole body naturally. That's why Living Waters Wellness Center 10-day healing retreat is so successful in helping what I call the incurables back to wellness. Here's what a few clients had to say about their experience at Living Waters Wellness Center.
For over a year, I've been dealing with gas pains, stomach pains that have been waking me up in the middle of the night, so I never get a full night's rest. And last night, after my first colonics, I slept through the entire night without any stomach pain or any kind of issues.
I suffered from migraine headaches for 12 years, once a month. And since I did the 10-day retreat at Living Waters Wellness Center 8 years ago, I have not even had a migraine. I've not even had a headache. I had back pain on my left side for about 25 years. After the 10-day healing retreat, the pain is completely gone.
To learn more about the 10-day healing retreat, go to healingtheincurables.com or call the office at 208-378-9911. That's 208-378-9911. The preceding examples may not be typical of your experience. They may not be right for you. Seek the opinion of a qualified healthcare professional before determining if cleansing is right.